Assalamu alaikum. You're watching Views and News, and I'm Faisal Rahman from our Islamabad studios. Today, we'll be talking about a very important presser by the Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi and DG ISPR. That was on Saturday, in which they gave some very, very important information. This was actually the first time that a proper documented evidence has been given by Pakistan while being in the Foreign Office, and the military and the civil leadership on the same page. And exactly what they said, I mean, there are a couple of very interesting features. One was this, that they mentioned that during the last 19 years, post-Afghan invasion by the Americans, more than 19,130 terrorist activities were carried out inside Pakistan or on the Pakistani soil. Just imagine 19,130 in 19 years. This makes almost 1,000 terrorist activities a year, coming down 3 a day and 1 terrorist activity every 8 hours. So you can well imagine this was the kind of scenario Pakistan went through. We lost around $135 billion as far as our economy is concerned. When you talk about the human loss, that's well over 75,000, including our valiant soldiers and the security personnel, as well as the civilians, including children, elderly, and women. Not only the hard targets were chosen by the enemy, but also the soft targets, such as the worship places like mosques or churches, or otherwise, if you look at it from the other perspective, even the marketplaces. People were out for shopping, and there was a bomb blast in which many lives were lost. This is the scenario through which we went during the last almost 2 decades. Now a dossier has been presented, and it has all the evidence of the Indian involvement in terrorist activities in Pakistan, sponsoring the non-state actors like Daesh, like TLP for that matter, or Jamaatul Ahrar, or Hizbul Ahrar, or a couple of other non-state actors like Daesh for that matter, IS in that region. They are supporting them, financing them, training them, giving them the equipment to carry out all this. And not only in KPK or FATA region. Now I'm talking about Balochistan. If you remember, in 2016, one of the senior naval spy officer was captured by the Pakistani security agencies in Balochistan. He admitted that he was given the task to sabotage and destabilize CPAC as well as the province of Balochistan, and on top, in particular, the city of Karachi, and we all know the importance of that city. Now, this has been going on for quite some time, and we have given them so many proofs. Now, we have also shown the recordings of the raw agents with the terrorists. What else can Pakistan do? Now, I think this is the brilliant move by the Foreign Office and by the ISPR as well, that coming up, telling the whole world that what exactly is going on. And do not blame Pakistan, because we are the sufferers. We have suffered the most in this so-called war against terror, which wasn't our war, but we were sucked into it. And we can well imagine what has happened after 20 years. The entire region is destabilized. To talk about it further, let me introduce you to our panel. We have with us in our studio Yasir Janjua Saab, who's a senior security analyst. Thank you very much, Janjua Saab.
Thank you, Faisal.
And we'll be talking to Mohammad Khan Saab, senior analyst over the Skype. Khan Saab, thank you very much for your time as well, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Janjua Saab, I'm sure you must have gone through what the Foreign Minister and the DG ISPR said over the weekend. A very lengthy, comprehensive briefing, and that presser, in fact, had thrown light on almost all what India is carrying out, starting from the presence of their consulates all along the border, their involvement in financing and carrying out the terrorist activities inside Pakistan, and their own people, whoever was caught, they admitted that they were assigned certain tasks. Now, I think hats off to the Pakistani security agencies. They've done a brilliant job, but still a lot more needs to be done. You can't wipe them out 100%. You can minimize the threshold of the enemy, sir. But still, I would say a brilliant move by the government, sir. Very open, very candid, and very straight. Your take.
Well, thank you, Faisal. I think it was a master stroke. And as you remember in previous programs in which I have been coming into your studios a couple of times, I have personally been saying this, that this is the least we can do. We need to bring out the dossier into the public and send it to the world. I've been saying it in my other programs and in talks on other channels as well. This was the least Pakistan could do, and I'll be very honest in saying that. Why has it not been done in the past? Because our previous government was complacent. Because it was actually, you have known now that our ex-ambassador to India came out in the public and said, when I was in the ambassador in the last government, I was told not to talk about India. Similarly, the Foreign Office was under instructions by the Prime Minister's office. None else than the Prime Minister himself was telling them not to talk about India and keep a low profile on anti-India dossier. This dossier is actually our case, because India has been going around and trying to banish us as the terrorists. The case against us, the FATF case against us has been promoted by India or lobbied by India. So if we didn't do this, we actually were going down the drain, because the world is starting to believe, or was starting to believe, there is something wrong on the Pakistani side. So this is the least we can do, and I'm very proud, we are all very proud, that the government and the law enforcement, primarily the military, has come together and put together a very convincing and a credible piece of evidence that cannot be refuted. Indians are crying now, because we have been saying this all along, but that was not at that level where we had gone and did a presser. Now we have exposed Indians. First and foremost, people were thinking, okay, they were homegrown terrorists who would have come into the APS. No, we all knew it, but now it has been concretely laid on the table that there was Indian involvement in the
And
APS
we had
attack.
proof, and if you remember, General Rahil Sharif was the Chief of Army Staff and went to Afghanistan on the 17th, if you remember, yeah?
We've been saying that, but as a collective response, or as a collective policy whereby Foreign Office was also on board, this is the first time Foreign Office and the military have come together and put the evidence on the table about BLA and BRA and all the terrorists that are funded by India. So it was our good luck that Gulbhushan Yadav was caught, and that eventually started exposing Indians, because people thought, no, Pakistan is the one to blame, or there is actually a freedom struggle in Balochistan, which is not the fact. Balochistan is part and parcel of Pakistan. Balochistan is not contiguous to India. It is not next to India. So what business does India have to all the way go across into Balochistan and foment dissent and separatism?
Sir, whatever they did in Bangladesh, we all know. It was admitted by their current Prime Minister that he was a part of that, and this is what he did when he was visiting Bangladesh and was talking in Dhaka University.
And I tell you what, on Bangladesh, if they are trying to tell some of the Pakistanis that Pakistan lost the war, let me tell you this very frankly. I can sit with any Indian top-notch analyst and I can prove to them India has not won a single war against us in the battlefield. In Bangladesh, what they did was, it was a conspiracy. 1948, we took away land from them. 1965, we sold them.
Bangladesh, sir, when we talk about Bangladesh, I mean, that's a different story altogether. It has multiple, I would say, angles to it also. Political is one, military is maybe the second, elections could be the third, Mujibur Rahman factor was maybe the fourth, and then eventually what happened to him along with his family, we all know, and we were not involved, that was the Bangla
if you allow
army.
me.
So if you allow me, sir, we'll quickly take a quick comment from Muhammad Khan Sahab also regarding this. Khan Sahab, the presser by the DGISPR as well as the Foreign Minister Shah Sahab on Saturday, a very comprehensive briefing, in detail session, and they had almost shown the true picture of what exactly is going on inside Pakistan and what is being done by the Indians. Your take, sir.
Thank you very much, Faisal. Indeed, I watched the entire press conference, and thereafter I wrote 2 articles on this particular press release. And let me say that it was really irrefutable dossier, irrefutable evidence Pakistan has given not only to the nation but rest of the world. Indeed, it is an eye-opener, and eye-opener to many respects, that there has been and there is going on the 4-dimensional Indian conspiracy against the state and society of the Pakistan. The first is definitely this is promotion of terrorism by making use of the Afghan territory, the Afghan soil, which is a giant baby of the RA and NDS, and that has been going on ever since 2004, 2005. But there is another aspect to it, and that aspect is that nowadays you see that line of control. All along the line of control, you see the firing with a heavy weapon by Indian military. Mostly it was done in Nilam sector, it was done in the Jhelum sector, it was done in the area of Rawalakot, and even go to the Cham sector. And there have been massive human losses as well as the losses of the property. But more so, everybody witnessed burning of villages, and those villages which were located close to the ceasefire line. And then there is yet another dimension of this dossier which Pakistan presented on that day. This is that Indian diplomacy has been quite effective ever since 2001, and that was that blaming Pakistan for the terrorism. As a matter of fact, India was trying to hide what India has been doing itself, and then Indian political leadership, that is the fourth dimension. Let me give you a very brief details of this. 2001, 2002, you must be remembering that India tried that it attacked Pakistan. That was a general mobilization of the Indian military, and that mobilization was countered by Pakistan. And I was, fortunately, I was one of the part of this entire process. And what Pakistan did, that in the shortest possible time, Pakistan countered that. And thereafter, Indian realized that we have to adopt some new strategy, the new options. And thereafter, India started collaborating with the interim Afghan government, making use of the Afghan soil. And with the passage of time, you have seen that people like Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, or the terrorist or the militant group in the name of Islam, unfortunately, they were used against the society and the state of the Pakistan. I remember, still remember those days once it used to be the massive attack. Indeed, you have seen that how many terrorist attacks they were carried out by the Indians, and all these were funded, financed, weapons were provided by the India, and as a matter of fact, they were harbored by the India till the Pak-Afghan border. And then you have mentioned in your introduction that how this Kulbhushan Yadav, how he was apprehended and he was the main. And today we have many Indian RA officer. Colonel Rajesh is a very recent example which was quoted by DG ISPR on that day, that he is the one, as a matter of fact, who is controlling this entire process, that the terrorists, those who pass or the cross to Pak-Afghan border and undertake the terrorist attack in various parts of the Pakistan, including various parts of the Balochistan. And this is indeed the Indian indirect warfare against Pakistan. All is aimed at that how to destabilize Pakistan internally. And as a result of this stabilization, India intends attaining so many objectives. The first objective is to create a chaos inside Pakistan. And then the most important is to create a situation whereby to create a hate or hatred against the forces among the people of the Pakistan. And this moment, as a matter of fact, this indeed hybrid warfare or the fifth generation warfare India has been mounting on Pakistan, and this was accepted by the people like Indian National Security Advisor, many senior army officers to the rank of the general. They has been saying that we are doing it, and publicly they have been saying this. Then Indian Defense Minister, he is on record saying that we are going to break Pakistan into the pieces. I think no more evidence is required at the global level. This evidence, the dossier which Pakistan, DG ISPR and the Foreign Minister of Pakistan presented on that day, I think that it has everything. And once we have everything, we have the right moment. This is an opportune moment that we move on to international forum.
And Dr. Saab, the best part is
Nations.
that I think this kind of foreign policy was much needed.
Yes,
As they say in
sure.
Urdu, der aaye durust aaye. That's perfect. But you know, I think if this would have been done about 7, 8, 10 years ago, things would have been much
I
different.
agree. Faisal, I agree that we need to adopt a proactive foreign policy. We need to have a proactive approach in order to persuade international community, particularly the capitals where there are the power centers. It is Washington, it is Beijing, it is Moscow, and let me say that it is Brussels. So we have to indeed intensify our diplomacy and intensify the political engagement at the global level, so that whatever India has been doing, as you mentioned that more than 19,000 attacks on the Pakistani soil, and there has been the losses of the human losses in terms of 83,000, which
All
also
right.
include 8,000 men of the security forces. So this is indeed the sufficient evidence, and by taking this evidence, we have to go over to international community in order to tell them that Indian terrorism is not only for the Pakistan, but indeed, as a matter of fact, in the subsequent phases, what India is doing, this is harmful for the South Asia, this is harmful for the rest of the world. Therefore,
For
the
the entire
sooner
region,
the
indeed,
international
indeed.
community.
Yeah. Now, Janjua Sab, when the foreign minister comes up, because if you remember in the past, we never even used to talk or take the name of India or the enemy state for that matter. We would always say that a neighboring state is doing this. You know, we've been very cautious. We always wanted to, make sure that the relationship with the neighborhood should be ideal. And if not ideal, at least shouldn't be aggressive or something of that sort. Now, when the foreign minister says that India is a rogue state, and with all the proofs, with all the evidence, how do you see that aspect, sir?
Going over to first part of your question, that in the past they did not even take the name of India. Why? Because the previous government was willing to give them an MFM status. The previous government had given India the most favored nation status. So their prime minister, who is the killer of Gujarat and who has openly confessed his involvement in 1971, our prime minister invites him on the wedding of his granddaughter. It's shameful. He's the killer of Muslims in Kashmir and in Gujarat and his involvement in East Pakistan. And he is the guest of honor at the wedding of his granddaughter. So that's why you never heard India's name being taken. But this government and the Prime Minister Imran Khan will not stop. In fact, we have been made privy to the conversations that the third channel or back channel, India has been requesting through third countries, please can the Pakistani Prime Minister and the Foreign Minister little bit slow down on anti-India bashing, but we would not. Because now the diplomacy is going in the right direction. And as you said, this is still not enough. We need to go a step further. First, they have now done a press conference where they've invited local journalists. I think the logical thing would be the next time both of them invite all the diplomats based in Islamabad and show the dossier to them and then take it to the United Nations, because the world must see what India is doing. I was about to tell you, India's got 8 or 9 consulates in Afghanistan, whereas it's not contiguous with Afghanistan. We are contiguous. We have people who are living on both sides of Pak-Afghan border, who travel between Afghanistan and Pakistan. This is the world's largest daily border crossing. This number is not even there in Mexico. The second best is Mexico. So with this kind of volume of people traveling between Pakistan and Afghanistan, even we don't have the number of consulates there. So what business Indians have? Because they were ulterior motives, because they were sponsoring terrorism through the Afghan soil.
Look at the amount of money they have spent.
Billions and billions they have allocated. RAW has allocated billions and billions to subvert people like the people
But
from
the interesting part is, Janjua Saab, RAW cannot be that effective without the local help out there.
There you go.
So when you talk
There
about the
always be
RAW and
Sadiq Zanveer
Analysis
Jawas.
Wing and the National Directorate of Security, NDS.
NDS.
So, I mean, we have also learned that, every third person in the NDS primarily is from RAW, and they're the ones who are teaching them, manipulating their mind, using them against Pakistan.
India has made a lot of investment, and that is why who's most scared of the Afghan peace process right now? It's India. It's the Indians who do not want the peace to come in Afghanistan and American forces to leave Afghanistan. Because Indians know that if the Taliban come back, the Indian influence in the Afghan government will reduce or minimize. So that's why they don't want peace in Afghanistan. We say Afghan-led peace, they should decide who it's going to be. We are not bothered. But it's the Indians who are against it, because they know their bases of operation which they are using against Pakistan will be diminished or removed if there is peace in Afghanistan. So India has a hand in everything that is happening to destabilize the region. And now the world is coming to reality. It's waking up to the reality. We should invite, in the next session, I think, the foreign minister should invite the diplomats also and tell them and give them the evidence in concrete. Like, obviously, the diplomats would have seen the press conference.
But,
They
but
have,
Janjua Sahab, there's another point. Now, maybe you have served in the forces. Pir Saab has also served as a one-star general. Now, the point is, sir, when you look at any embassy, there's a certain number of staff. They have certain assignments to do. I mean, in a proper environment. But when you look at India for that matter, sir, there are so many raw agents. They have been sent to Afghanistan, and even I'm sure in Islamabad, 100% they are here as well, who are all raw agents, and they have been shown as diplomats for that matter. You know, you could tell just by looking at them. You could just have a 30-second conversation with them, and you could tell, you know, exactly who they are. So don't you think, sir, this is a time that we really need to look into and do some sort of filter process?
Because this is the only way they can fight a war. As I told you,
Indirect war.
Ask them to come and fight a war with us in a battlefield. They have never won a war against us in the battlefield. They can't win a war against us. Their soldiers' morale right now is at the lowest ebb. The suicide rates in Indian Army is at the highest. They're not even giving them proper food. And there are videos that you must have seen on Facebook and YouTube where the Indian soldiers are complaining they're not being well fed. On the contrary, Pakistani soldier is willing to fight without food because
sir, they are battle hardened. This is what we have witnessed.
There is a cause for which we are fighting,
India, yes?
jihad. There is no cause for them. So that's why what I'm trying to say is that Indians do not have something to fight a proper war in the battlefield. That's why they resort to these cheap tactics. Intelligence-based operations or subversion or buying people. We are 22 crore people. You can't say that you have all the people in the country who will never be bought. There are people who can always be bought. And those are the kind of people India throws the money. Yes. India throws the money and then uses them.
But this is exactly what is happening. Brigadier Saab, if you allow me, talking about TTP, Mullah Fazlullah, talking about BLA, BLF, BRA, talking about Jamaatul Ahrar, talking about Hizbul Ahrar, talking about Daesh, ISIS. And then when you talk, in particular, when you look at the province of Balochistan, let me take the name, Dr. Allah Nazar. This name was taken the other day. You talk about Bramdar Bukti, you talk about Harbiar Mari, you talk about Mehran Baloch. All these people are fed by the raw, trained by the raw, they have been financed by the raw, they have been given safe havens by the raw. Some are living in UK, some are living in Switzerland, some have the Indian passports, Indian diplomatic passports. Can you imagine? And these people, don't you think, I mean, there was a time when Rehman Malik was the interior minister and he said that, you know, we want them back and these are the brothers and we'll bring them back into the mainstream and all. How to go about it, sir? Should we consider them brothers or just...
Indeed.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Indeed, these are the areas which were highlighted during the press conference. And DG ISPR, indeed, he mentioned about each group, whether it was Jamaatul Ahrar, Hizbul Ahrar, it was TTP. Indeed, what that Colonel Rajesh is doing in the Indian Embassy at Kabul is making a consortium of all these. I mean, he is regrouping, and this regrouping is since last 6 months. As a matter of fact, he is regrouping all these and trying to remotely control all these. And a huge budget has been allocated for all these groups. They are funded as a matter of fact, and huge funding is there for them, which is given to them in terms of the weapon, in terms of the ammunition, in terms of the equipment they indeed need in order to move from their hideouts into the Pakistani soil. But more than that, you must have heard yourself that some of the Indian anchors, they have been saying openly that we just need to give them 2 crore to 3 crore to the people, those who are doing some of the, you can say that they are involved in the sectarian divide or sectarianism in Pakistan, and we can achieve our objective. This is what they are doing. And just to share with you a very brief incident, a young boy from Balochistan University. He was taken to Kabul. From Kabul, he was given a passport of Afghanistan. Then he was moved to Europe, and there he was trained. Later, he revealed once he came to Pakistan, and indeed he said that lot of young Baloch students they are taken from Pakistan. They are given training, but more than that, they are given the hate literature against Pakistan and how to see Balochistan from Pakistan. And same thing is going on as far as the TTP, Jamaatul Ahrar, BLA, or BRA for that matter. So this is indeed a very, very organized movement, which is definitely it is initially at the primarily it is all planned and executed at the level of the RA and NDS. And just to share with you, that I have my Afghan students also. Indeed, in Afghanistan, all areas which are bordering Pakistan, they have lot of say of Indian raw elements, and there are the 5 senior level raw advisors with the NDS, and they are controlling all the activities. And to tell you that this establishment of the NDS was directly done by the RA, and definitely once RA was involved in its establishment, definitely there was something against Pakistan. It was not for the security of Afghanistan, but it was
Now,
all against Pakistan.
there is another report, Brigadier Saab, that is about a very interesting feature. We have also learned that about 30 of the militants from India, were picked up, were taken to the Pak-Afghan border. They were trained there, and they've been assigned. They were actually handed over to Daesh commander Sheikh Abdul Rahim, or Aka Abdul Rahman, Muslim Dost. So this man took charge of those 30 people. They were trained, financed, equipped. They were assigned certain tasks all along the border, and they were also told to form Daesh Pakistan. And so many splinter
Yes.
groups from Taliban and other related terrorist organizations, they have also gathered a lot of support. And I mean, this is something which is brewing out there, and that is primarily the reason that the DGISP or the others said that November and December could be very, very important months, as we have learned that a lot of terrorist activities would be conducted. So we
Very
have the
rightly.
intelligence report, sir. Again,
Yes,
your take.
sir. Sir, we have intelligence, and to share with you that once this element of Daesh entered into Afghanistan, that was in the form of Daesh or IS Khorasan, and Khorasan was indeed the center, and some of the even TTP elements they've become part of it. But most of these elements of the Daesh, once they were brought from Middle Eastern countries, they were joined by the TTP element, and this TTP element, as a matter of fact, was very, very deliberate and intentional. It had, you can say that sharing of information by RA, it was sharing of the information by NDS, but more so it was controlled. This entire Daesh element was controlled apart from a major country, you can say that intelligence agency of a major power, which you must be remembering that Hamid Karzai even mentioned that who is behind Daesh. But in case of the Pakistan, I compliment and I appreciate greatly to the role of armed forces of Pakistan, particularly the way we conducted this operation Rad al Fasad, because Rad al Fasad was an operation which indeed dug down the basis of this Daesh who wanted to enter into Pakistan from Pak-Afghan border, from the Chaman area, from this areas north and south Waziristan, and some of the areas of the Balochistan. So Pakistani army, Pakistani security forces, and particularly Pakistani intelligence setup, they indeed blocked all those routes and apprehended many of them. And now what they want, as a matter of fact, since Pakistan is a contributory country, Pakistan is the key country which has made an attempt to bring United States and Taliban on the table, and a deal was struck in February 2020. And now Pakistan is contributing a lot as far as bringing Taliban to Afghan government, and Pakistan wants peace. India is indeed very, very uneasy, and along with many other countries, maybe those who have the same narratives. Since Pakistan is doing this, they want to counter that rather Pakistan
All right.
contributing toward the peace in Afghanistan, there should be a sufferance within Pakistan.
Related to
So
that, sir,
Daesh
related to
Pakistan,
that, now there was also information, sir, for every vehicle IED, the,
Sir,
they would give you 1 crore rupees, that is 10 million rupees. And for each target killing, RAW would give you 1 million, that is 10 lakh rupees. Whether you target some cleric or any army officer or individual for that matter, or a bomb blast would mean 1 crore rupees.
exactly,
Then we
Maulana
have also
Abdullah
learned
was targeted in
that,
Karachi.
Dr. Saab, putting this question to Janjua Saab here, sir. We've also seen that recently there was this very interesting feature that in fact mentioned that the RAW agents are also kind of persuading the tribal people, their elders in certain areas where they would be gathering people from this part, taking them to Afghanistan, training them, financing them, assigning them different terrorist tasks, and then, you know, it has become a business out there. Your take on that, sir?
Faisal,
Is money that important?
you've been hearing this. Well, RAW, they do this, but now this is being, as Brigadier Sahib was also saying, even their TV anchors are saying this publicly. Gaurav Arya said this in Karachi. We can pay 5 lakh rupees and get every army officer killed. Don't touch their families, but kill the army officers. They've been saying that publicly. They've been investing money in Balochistan on dissident elements or on those young boys to make them dissidents and take them away from Pakistani nationalism. But I want to go a step further, Faisal. What do we do from here? Should we just sit here and talk every week? Or should we just tell the world this is what they're doing? What we have to do we always have to be
So, no, offensive
reactive?
is the best defense, because if this is what Ajit Doval wants, then we should also hold him by his...
That's one, that we have given the dossier to the world. I am going a step further. We have to take concrete measures in Balochistan so that these people cannot be bought. Mainstreaming of Balochistan is what we need to do. These people will not go away. You have to understand and take care of their concerns. Give them jobs, give them development. CPEC was developed or conceived in the name of Gwadar Port. So Balochistan should get the major share, whereas unfortunately, when the previous government developed or master planned this, the entire or most part of the CPEC was actually passing through Punjab and Sindh. All the development work was going there. You should have installed industries in Balochistan. Every nook and corner of Balochistan should have been developed so that people in Balochistan feel we are part of the same society. Forget about everything else, forget about the government. Even the media does not give coverage to Balochistan. So we have to address their concerns, and I'm sure when we do that, they'll be part of this society like nobody else. You will not be able to buy them. Indians will not be able to buy them, because if we are giving them
And
jobs,
you can't do that overnight, sir. It will take time, definitely.
it will,
There
but we have to
needs
take
be
a start
proper,
somewhere.
comprehensive plan.
That's the long-term process
for the development of Balochistan also.
That's
And
the long-term process.
even Gilgit-Baltistan for that matter. You know, after winning elections in Gilgit-Baltistan, I'm sure PTI is going to form a government there, all along with the independent candidates. I think that is going to hold the key for the next couple of years out there, because I think they have brilliant education system, they have got a brilliant health system, healthcare system out there as well. But I think, you know, bringing them into the main loop, that is what the need of the hour is. One more important area before I come to you, Khan Sahab, let me ask this question. Now the Indians, Janjua Sahab, they have said that, well, you know, this is all rubbish. And they basically said that this dossier which Pakistan has presented is all fabricated. Obviously, this is what we were expecting from them. This is what they all do at the same time. Don't you think, sir, as far as the foreign policy approach towards India, I mean, this is great. This is a brilliant. I think this should be done every week. They should be told that this is what we have gathered this week, and these are the people we have caught, and this is what they say. We should not be afraid that India, you know, whatever. I think they have lost their muscle, they have lost their strength, they have lost their partners in the region. And after signing that huge trade agreement between so many, more than 24 countries and China, I think that's a brilliant move. Two countries which were out, one was America, one was India. And Indians have again lost the, I think CPEC was one, this was another. Now, when we talk about no matter even the US allow the Indians to start printing their dollars in India, it is not going to work for them, sir.
See, India, even their scholars like Praveen Sawhney, they've been saying to the world and to the Indians, India has no choice but trilateral cooperation. India remains out of BRI, India is the one to lose. Pakistan is gaining. Pakistan being part of BRI and CPEC is gaining. Every other country is gaining. Nepal is gaining. The only country in the entire subcontinental
Which
region
could
is
have
Bhutan.
gained the most.
India could have gained the most.
Yep.
If it became friendly, but India is using subversive tactics. India is worried, of course, because Gwadar developed. India is worried. They were hoping that they could take Chabahar, and now Iranians are talking to Chinese over Chabahar as well. So India is losing ground there as well. India's only means of fighting a war, as we've been talking about, is these operations. Hybrid war and fifth generation war. Their channels, if you look at them, they don't talk about anything but anti-Pakistan bashing. Their prime minister wins
This is
the
the narrative
election.
they are selling in India, sir.
The prime minister only wins the election on anti-Pakistan bashing.
That is
in
the
Pakistan,
reason.
the election is not fought
their
over
PM,
India.
the butcher, is like this with the media. This
So,
is unfortunately the
The
narrative.
more they bash Pakistan in their elections, the more popular they become, because that's what their media is telling them. Because this is the kind of war they tell them to come and fight a war with us.
This is what they've inculcated, hatred towards Pakistan.
Yes.
And I think any sane person would understand, even in India, that what's going on. Last 3 minutes, over to you, Khan Saab.
Faisal, very interestingly, Janjua Saab said that India cannot fight a war. Indeed, 1.3 million Indian army, its paramilitary forces and all that, they are demoralized and badly demoralized. And whatever India thought that its military general could do, indeed, that was all what they were attaining, the new positions, and they were trying to indeed deceive their own country. And we have a very brilliant example of where the Chief of Defense Staff, General Bipin Rawat, indeed, he was seen as apologetic after what we did on 27th of February 2019. And no, as a matter of fact, definitely we suffered. We lost 83,000 people. But today, Pakistan Army, the armed forces of Pakistan, they are better hardened. Indeed, no army, no military in the world today match the Pakistani military, number one. That's what
Sir,
the
look
India
at
has
the exercises going on between the Pakistanis and the Russians. And last night I
Yes.
was looking at the visuals. Honestly speaking, I was surprised to see, mashallah, the skills of our soldiers. Forget about the
Yes.
combat with the gun or with the machinery. The physical fist fighting, the kicks and everything, and the physical strength and the kind of training they've gone through, mashallah.
Faisal, Pakistani army officer and the troops, wherever they go, in Europe and America and everywhere in the world, they are number one, unmatchable, and repeatedly they won the competition, the combat competitions at international level.
Yeah.
But more than that, the strategies
Consecutively,
Pakistani
yeah.
military commanders, they are indeed making use of. That's the wonderful. That's why, since time is, we are running short of the time, I would be just telling that we have to tell our people the message of the Pakistan from all parts, whether it is Balochistan, whether it is Gilgit-Baltistan, that they should stand behind their armed forces. Why? Because India is running a massive campaign to defame Pakistani military. So they have to be in line. They have to understand that the Pakistani military is the center of gravity. I know that it is the people, but as a matter of fact, they are driving the people.
All right, sir. Thank you so much for your comments. Mohammad Khan Saab, was a pleasure having you, Janjua Saab, in the program. And that's all we have for this Saab. Inshallah, I'll see you tomorrow. Till then, you take good care of yourself. Khuda Hafiz from our side.